Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Smart Fixer and today, we're diving into a crucial topic that every car owner should be aware of, the top causes of car fires. Let's get started. You know, a car fire is one of those things you hope never happens, but understanding why they happen is the first step in preventing them. It's not just old beaters that are at risk, even newer cars can have issues. We're talking about something that can turn your pride and joy into a pile of smoldering metal and more importantly, put you and your passengers in real danger. So it's serious business, folks. Here at Smart Fixer, we're all about empowering you with knowledge. We believe that a well-informed car owner is a safer car owner. That's why we're gonna break down the common culprits behind these blazes, from the stuff under the hood that can go wrong, to simple mistakes, and even some things you might not have thought of. We'll cover the mechanical gremlins, the electrical nightmares, and the fluid fiascos that can lead to a four-wheeled inferno. It's not about scaring you, it's about making you aware. So buckle up, because we're going to go through this step by step. Think of this as your fire safety briefing for your vehicle. By the end of this video, you'll have a much better idea of what to look out for, what to maintain, and how to keep your car from becoming an unwanted barbecue. We want you to enjoy your drives, worry-free, knowing you've done your part to keep things safe. Alright, let's get into it. Alright, first up, let's talk about something near and dear to my heart, and something we talk about a lot here at Smart Fixer: poor maintenance. Or, lack of maintenance. This is a big one, folks. Think about your fuel system. You've got fuel lines, often rubber, running from the tank all the way to the engine. Over time, these lines can get brittle, they can crack, the connectors can loosen up. And if you've got a leaky fuel injector, well, that's just spraying gasoline where it shouldn't be. Now imagine that fuel, which is obviously super flammable, dripping or spraying onto a hot exhaust manifold or a sizzling engine block. That's a recipe for a real bad time, a very quick ignition. It's like leaving a lit match next to a puddle of gasoline. Not smart. Then you've got the electrical system, the nervous system of your car. If you've got cracked insulation on your wiring, maybe from age or heat, or loose connections, or a battery that's seen better days and is maybe leaking a bit of acid or not secured properly, you're asking for trouble. These issues can lead to sparks, and a spark is all it takes to ignite fuel vapors, oil residue, or even old dried-out insulation material. We see it all the time, wires rubbing against a sharp edge, slowly wearing through until, bang, you get a short circuit, and a short circuit means heat, sometimes a lot of it very quickly. It's amazing how a tiny little spark can lead to such a big problem, so keeping that wiring in top shape is absolutely key. And let's not forget the engine itself getting too hot. I mean too hot. Your cooling system is there for a reason. If it's not working right, maybe you've got a radiator leak, a bad water pump, a stuck thermostat, or you're just plain low on coolant, that engine temperature is going to skyrocket. When an engine seriously overheats, components can fail, seals can blow, and flammable fluids like engine oil or transmission fluid can get superheated or pushed out onto hot surfaces. Plus, extreme heat can degrade other parts in the engine bay, making them more susceptible to ignition. It's a chain reaction, and it all starts with that cooling system not doing its job. So keep an eye on that temperature gauge, folks. Now, let's talk about leaking fluids, which is kind of related to maintenance, but it deserves its own spotlight because it's such a common ignition source. Your car is full of different fluids, and a lot of them are flammable. Gasoline is the obvious one, incredibly volatile. But you've also got engine oil, transmission fluid, power steering fluid, brake fluid. Some of these can ignite if they hit a hot enough surface, especially the exhaust system, which can get incredibly hot, hundreds of degrees. If you've got a seal that's gone bad, a gasket that's leaking, or a hose that's split, these fluids can escape and find their way to those hot spots. It's not just about the mess on your driveway, it's a serious fire hazard. And it's not always a major leak that causes the problem. Even minor spills can be dangerous. Say you're topping off your oil, and you spill a little on the exhaust manifold. Or maybe a little brake fluid drips down when you're working on the brakes. You might think, it's just a little bit, it'll burn off. And yeah, it might. But it also might find a little nook or cranny to pool in, and then if it gets hot enough, or if there's a spark from somewhere else, poof! That's why it's so important to be careful when you're working on your car, and to clean up any spills immediately and thoroughly. A little bit of prevention goes a long, long way here. The real danger with these fluids, especially things like gasoline or even oil when it gets hot enough to vaporize, is the fumes. It's often the vapors that ignite first, not necessarily the liquid itself. These vapors can travel, they can accumulate in enclosed spaces like the engine bay, and if they find an ignition source, a spark from faulty wiring, an extremely hot exhaust component, you can get a flash fire or an explosion. That's why smelling gasoline around your car is such a red flag. It means those flammable vapors are present, and you need to find the source of that leak pronto before something much worse happens. It's serious stuff, these drips of danger. Let's dive a little deeper into electrical problems because these are sneaky. A short circuit is a classic culprit. This happens when a live wire, one carrying current, touches a ground point like the car's metal frame, or another wire it shouldn't. This creates a low resistance path for the electricity, and that means a whole lot of current flows very quickly. All that current generates a tremendous amount of heat in a very small area, enough to melt insulation, make wires glow red hot, and, you guessed it, start a fire. This can be caused by wires with damaged insulation from chafing against a sharp edge, rodent damage, they love to chew on wires, or even just old brittle insulation cracking off. Then there's the issue of faulty wiring in general, especially in older vehicles or cars that have had a lot of, let's say, enthusiast modifications. Over time, insulation breaks down, connectors corrode, and wires can become brittle. This isn't just about shorts. A poor connection can also create high resistance, and that high resistance point can heat up like a bad toaster element. You might not even blow a fuse initially, but that spot just keeps getting hotter and hotter. We also see issues with aftermarket installations, big stereos, extra lights, alarms. If these aren't wired correctly, with the right gauge of wire and proper fusing, you're essentially adding a fire hazard to your car. Overloaded circuits are a big no-no. And don't forget the battery itself. A faulty battery can overcharge and overheat, sometimes causing the acid inside to boil and potentially vent flammable hydrogen gas. If there's a spark nearby, from a loose terminal connection for example, that gas can ignite. Also, if a battery isn't secured properly, it can move around, potentially shorting out against the hood or other metal parts. It seems basic, but making sure your battery is in good condition, properly secured, and the terminals are clean and tight is a fundamental safety check. Electricity is your car's friend, but when it goes rogue, it can be a real enemy. Overheating. It's not just uncomfortable if your AC isn't working, it can be downright dangerous for your car's fire safety. We touched on engine overheating earlier, but let's really focus on how that cooling system failure can lead to flames. When your engine gets excessively hot because the cooling system, think radiator, water pump, thermostat, cooling fan, or just low coolant levels, isn't doing its job, metal parts expand, gaskets can fail, and seals can blow. This can cause flammable fluids like oil or even coolant, which often has flammable additives, to spray or leak onto incredibly hot surfaces like the exhaust manifold or the engine block itself. It's a direct path to ignition. Now here's a component many people don't think about in terms of fire risk: the catalytic converter. This emissions control device operates at extremely high temperatures normally, like 700 to 900 degrees Fahrenheit, sometimes even hotter. But if your engine is running poorly, say it's misfiring and dumping unburnt fuel into the exhaust, that raw fuel can ignite inside the converter. This can cause the converter to overheat massively, well beyond its design temperatures, to the point where it can glow red hot. If there's anything flammable nearby, dry leaves or grass under the car, a leaking fluid dripping down, or even undercoating or sound-deadening material, that superheated converter can set it ablaze. It's a silent threat lurking underneath your car. The exhaust system as a whole can also pose a risk if it's damaged or modified improperly. If an exhaust pipe is rerouted too close to flammable materials like fuel lines, plastic components, or even the car's carpeting or interior trim, the constant heat can eventually lead to ignition. A blocked or restricted exhaust can also cause heat to build up excessively in certain areas. So, it's not just about the engine bay. The entire path of those hot exhaust gases needs to be clear and properly insulated from anything that could catch fire. Keeping things cool, or at least at their designed operating temperatures, is critical. Car accidents are bad enough on their own, but when fire is added to the mix, it becomes a nightmare scenario. A significant impact can wreak havoc on all your car's systems. Fuel lines can be severed or crushed, fuel tanks can be punctured, and suddenly you have highly flammable gasoline leaking out, often under pressure. At the same time, electrical systems can be damaged, wires can be cut and short out, creating sparks, or the battery itself can be smashed and short-circuit. It's a perfect storm. A sudden release of fuel and a ready-made ignition source all in the same chaotic moment. The forces involved in a crash are immense, and they can turn a safe, contained system into an instant hazard. The leaking fluids we talked about earlier become an even more acute problem after an impact. It's not just fuel. Engine oil, transmission fluid, brake fluid, and coolant can all be released if their respective tanks, reservoirs, or lines are damaged. These fluids can then spread quickly over hot engine components that might still be at operating temperature, or onto wreckage that's been heated by friction or sparks from the crash itself. Even if the initial impact doesn't cause a fire, these leaking fluids create a highly volatile situation where a delayed spark or continued heat soak can lead to ignition minutes after the crash. This is why it's so crucial to get away from a crashed vehicle if you can do so safely. Furthermore, the structural damage from an accident can create new fire pathways. Crumpled metal can expose flammable materials that were previously shielded or can trap heat in unexpected places. A small, initially contained fire can spread rapidly through damaged upholstery, plastics, and insulation. The priority after any significant collision, once you've ensured everyone's immediate safety from the impact itself, is to be hyper-aware of any signs of smoke or fire, and to evacuate the vehicle and get a safe distance away. The car is replaceable, lives are not. Accidents are unpredictable, but the fire risk they introduce is very real. Beyond the more common mechanical and electrical failures, there are some other, let's call them miscellaneous, factors that can lead to your car catching fire. Sometimes, believe it or not, the problem can be baked in from the factory design flaws. Manufacturers are pretty good these days, but occasionally a model might have a particular vulnerability. Maybe a component routed too close to a heat source or an electrical system that's prone to a specific type of failure. This is why vehicle recalls are issued. If you get a recall notice, especially one related to fire risk, don't ignore it. Get it taken care of. It's the manufacturer admitting there's a potential problem they need to fix for your safety. Then there's the world of aftermarket accessories. We all love to personalize our rides, maybe add a killer sound system, some fancy lighting, or a remote starter. But if these accessories, especially electrical ones, aren't installed correctly, you're just asking for trouble. Using the wrong gauge of wire, not installing proper fuses, making poor connections, these can all create new electrical faults and significantly increase your fire risk. It's not just about it working, it's about it being. If you're not 100% sure what you're doing, leave it to a professional who understands automotive electrical systems. A cool stereo isn't worth burning your car to the ground. And finally, we have to mention a couple of human factors. Smoking in your vehicle, for instance. A dropped cigarette or carelessly discarded ashes can easily ignite upholstery, floor mats, or trash in the car. It seems obvious, but it happens. And then there's the unfortunate reality of arson. Deliberately setting a car on fire is a malicious act, and while it's not a mechanical failure, it's still a cause of car fires that, sadly, occurs. While you can't always prevent a determined arsonist, being mindful of where you park and general security can sometimes deter such acts. It's a wide range of things, but all can lead to the same fiery end. Well folks, that's a pretty sobering look at why cars can catch fire, but knowledge is power, right? From leaky fuel lines and faulty wiring to overheating engines and the aftermath of accidents, there are a lot of potential culprits. The good news is that many of these risks can be seriously reduced with regular maintenance, careful inspections, and just being aware of what to look and listen for. Your car gives you a lot of freedom, but it also comes with responsibility. The main takeaway here at Smart Fixer is to be proactive, not reactive. Don't wait for a strange smell, a weird noise, or smoke to tell you something's wrong. Keep up with your scheduled maintenance, pay attention to those fluid levels, get any electrical issues checked out promptly, and if you're in an accident, be mindful of the fire risk. A little bit of vigilance can make a huge difference in keeping you, your passengers, and your beloved vehicle safe from harm. It's about respect for the machine and respect for safety. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more informative videos. We want to help you keep your car running smoothly and safely for years to come. Stay safe out there and keep your car in top shape to avoid these fire hazards. See you next time. Drive safe, and remember, a little bit of smart fixing can prevent a whole lot of trouble.